Day 2, yay! Hopefully you all made it through day 1 and you've got all your pieces cut out. Haven't, here's your chance to pause this video, go back, catch up on what you've missed out on, and then you can come back to day 2. And in here we're going to be preparing our patch pocket panels on the side. So we have to have our side panel pieces, our patch pockets, and our patch pocket, what are these called? Bands on top. I'm going to put that together today. That's all we're doing today, is preparing these side panel pieces so that we can do day 3, which is attaching it all together. And I swear these will come together so quick you'll have a pair of pants before you even know it. Let's dive in. The first thing we need to do is get our 2 patch pocket pieces and our 2 bands, and we're going to attach the bands to the pocket pieces. So I'm a big believer in clips when using knit fabrics, and particularly sports performance, because pins tend to mark the fabric. So I'm a big fan of clips. And if you got your fabric from Clover & Co, they often will include these cute little metal sustainable clips. So whether you use metal ones or plastic clip ones, it's up to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to fold our bands in half, wrong sides together, and we're going to attach them with the raw edges aligning and clip. So you will need to slightly stretch it to fit, but when you're sewing it along, just give it a bit of a stretch. So I'm going to just pin it at the start and at the end, and I'll stretch it slightly as I sew. I'm going to do that to both sides, and then I'm going to take it to my overlocker and overlock them together. Now, you might notice I've changed my left needle thread out to a blue. Now, this is just a little industry trick. So obviously the inside of this sports performance is white, so I've kept most of my threads as white. But because the outside is blue, when you pull it out, and you know with all overlocking, you tend to get a little bit of a seam showing. And I would say this would be the same if you're doing it with a zigzag stitch as well. I would tend to go white on your bobbin and blue on your top thread. It just helps alleviate that. So you'll understand what I mean when I do it, but I'm going to repeat putting my patch pocket band onto the other side, and then I'm going to sew them together. So I'll do that now. So you should now have 2 opposite patch pockets. They need to be opposite because obviously they're on opposite sides of your legs. So if you have 2 pieces that look, actually no, it doesn't matter, they should both be fine, which is good. So we've got our 2 patch pockets, and what I meant with the stitching, now when you pull it apart you can't actually see the stitching, it's all the blue. So the white you can see is just the printed fabric, but the stitching is all hidden. So you can top stitch this down if you want, or cover stitch. I do have a cover stitch, but I'm not going to cover stitch these because not everybody has one. So just to make sure and to show you all that anybody can make these, I'm not going to top stitch them down. You can put a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine if you want, just to push it down, or you can leave them as is. The next step is to take your patch pockets, and we're going to push up the bottom seam about 1/2 inch. It does say to press it. I'm not a big fan of pressing sports performance. I just find it doesn't really do much, and I'm always scared that I'm going to melt it onto my iron. So I'm just going to kind of finger press it and keep it down with some clips. We're going to do that to both sides. Now hopefully on your side panel pieces you have marked where the pocket is going to go. So obviously this is on the wrong side, but I'm going to flip it over and use it as my guide anyway. So I want it to match up. Just make sure I've got the right side. Doesn't really matter, does it? Because I think they're both the same. So I'll match it up. Yep, that's right. I'm going to just roughly make sure it's there, and then I'm going to clip it on the sides. So that's secured there, and I'm going to make sure that I'm about the top here. And I'm going to clip along the side here. You may need to stretch this slightly at the top to fit. I don't think I'm supposed to have that, but we're going to roll with it anyway. As long as my bottom pieces are lined up, I should be pretty right. So that's our first patch pocket. I'm going to put that to the side, and I'll get my second one where I've also marked pieces, which should then be the opposite. Yep, great. We're just roughly making sure I've lined it up with my marked bits. Yep. All right, we've got our two patch pockets ready to go. I'm going to now get my sewing machine, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch along here to attach my pieces, and then I'm going to do a long basting stitch along each side just to hold it in place while I attach it to my other pieces. So hold that thought and I'll get my sewing machine. Got my sewing machine all set up now. I've got my blue thread as my top thread and my white as my bobbin. I've set it up as zigzag. It's on about a stitch length of 3, so that should be pretty good. And all we're going to do is zigzag stitch along here to secure it, and then I'm going to do a simple basting stitch along here. I will do both my zigzags first so that I don't have to mess around with my settings. So I'm going to zigzag this, then zigzag my other, and then baste along there. Now I'm just noticing that I'm getting some skipped stitches in my zigzagging. I'm pretty sure this is because it's a sports performance. My machine has had trouble with this before. I have changed my needle out and I'm using a Microtex needle. However, I'm still getting some skipped stitches. So I'm not going to worry too much because I think it will be okay. But yeah, if you're having skip stitches, I would recommend changing out your needle. So using something like a super stretch or a Microtex, and then seeing if that helps. So I'm now going to baste along the sides. I'm going to go from the bottom and sew down, just because I want to make sure this pocket is really nice and flat, and it's going to be easier for me to adjust it at the open end than if I have bubbles at the closed end. We've got our first basted side done. Now I just need to do the other. Guess what? That is day 2 complete. So we have done our side panel pockets, 1 and 2, and we're all ready to go on with day 3, which will be constructing the inseams. So hopefully you learned a little bit from day 2. If you've got any questions, always make sure you pop them in the comment box below. We're here as a community to help each other, and I really want you all to get the most out of this sew along. So definitely pop any questions that you've got below. Otherwise, get ready for video 3 coming tomorrow. Can't wait.